Let us begin with a journey through the history of thought. A journey tracing how human beings have tried to understand the link between what lies within and what unfolds without. In ancient philosophy, this relation between inward essence and outward manifestation was not a division, but a harmony. The world itself was seen as alive with a rational pulse. The Stoics called this pulse logos, the divine reason pervading everything. For them, the cosmos was not an external machine, but a living organism of meaning. To live virtuously was not to escape the world, but to align the inner voice of reason with the outer rhythm of nature. When a storm destroyed a ship or fortune turned against a man, the Stoic did not see tragedy. He saw the unfolding of a universal order in which his own will participated. Inward acceptance and outward event were two notes of one cosmic chord. This was the age of inward wholeness. The in and the out were pages of a single living logos. Then came Descartes, and with him a decisive turn inward. Doubt swept across the intellectual landscape of Europe. How could one trust the senses, the body, or even the heavens above, when everything could be deceiving? Descartes sought certainty, not in the world, but in the self that thinks. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. This moment fractured the unity of the ancient world. The inward mind became the new source of truth, while the outward world was reduced to measurable extension. What was once an integrated cosmos became a dual structure, inward consciousness versus outward matter. This was the pulse of what we might call the inner duality, the separation of the knowing subject from the known world. Now, inner ontology, or IO, revisits this long tension from a new vintage. It asks what existed before the split, before logos and cogito, before matter and mind. What was the ontological ground that allowed both to appear? IO proposes that the universe begins not in duality, but in inner indistinct, or IOIs, entities that are neither inward nor outward, but both in superposed balance. They are not abstractions, they are the ontological generators of directionality, relation, and form. From the mutual entanglement of IOIs, called IOE, emerge the structures we recognize as space, time, energy, and even consciousness. In this sense, the Stoic logos can be seen as an emergent inward wholeness, the self-cohering harmony of IOIs, and Descartes' cogito represents an inward asymmetry, a localized self-reflective concentration of that same field. What the ancient felt as unity and what the modern felt as division are both different expressions of the same inner field dynamics. Through I/O, these once opposing visions converge. The Stoic finds new depths in the cooperative coherence of IOIs. The Cartesian finds his certainty embedded not in isolation, but in relational entanglement. Thus, IO offers a generative synthesis, a way of seeing the cosmos not as a collection of separate things, nor as a single monolithic order, but as a living interplay of inward and outward becoming. And we follow this logic further, something profound happens. The ethical problem of how to live, the epistemic question of how to know, and the ontological question of what exists all begin to merge, because to exist in this IO sense is precisely to co-create the inward and outward through entanglement. So, when we look back now, from logos to cogito, from ancient harmony to modern dualism, we see not a loss, but a cycle. The universe itself seems to breathe through this rhythm. Inward coherence, outward differentiation, and then back again. Then rhythm is not only cosmic, it is the pulse of being itself, the inner rhythm that sustains existence, thought, and meaning. Let's travel back to the ancient Mediterranean world, roughly around the 33rd century BCE, when the Stoic school emerged in Athens. Stoicism arose in a time of political turbulence and social upheaval, where the question "how should one live?" was urgent not just for philosophers, but for anyone seeking stability in a chaotic world. At the heart of Stoic thought lies Logos, the rational, divine principle that pervades the entire cosmos. Logos is not just a philosophical concept. It is a living, ordering intelligence, the invisible thread weaving together everything that exists. The universe is seen as a single, organic whole, and human reason is simply a fragment of this divine rationality. Our inner life is not separate from the world, but a reflection of the greater order. Epictetus, a Roman Stoic who lived in the 1st century CE, captured this beautifully in his Enchiridion. Everything has two handles, one by which it may be carried, another by which it cannot. In other words, every event offers both a way to act wisely and a way to be frustrated. Logos shows us that how we respond inwardly can harmonize with what happens outwardly. Consider Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor. He faced wars, plagues, and political intrigue. Yet in his meditations, he repeatedly reminds himself that obstacles are not disruptions to life, but opportunities for inward growth. A difficult event in the external world, in the Stoic view, is never meaningless. It becomes a stage where personal virtue and cosmic order intersect. In short, Stoicism teaches that inward disposition and outward events are inseparable. Your inner life, your reasoning, your ethical reflection resonates with the universe itself. When we cultivate virtue, we are not merely acting morally in isolation. We are participating in the rational structure of the cosmos. This is the Stoic vision of immanent unity. The inward and the outward are not separate, but co-emergent, always entangled within the living logos. In the language of modern in-out ontology, we might even say that the Stoic cosmos models a kind of inward wholeness realized outwardly. The inner rational order is mirrored in the unfolding events of the world. Adversity, joy, triumph, or loss all become expressions of the same unified, immanent principle, a dance between inward and outward, reason and reality. Now that we have seen the core of Logos, let's explore how Stoicism dissolves the division between inward and outward life. In Stoic thought, the inner world of virtue and reason is not separate from the outer world of faith and nature. Instead, the inward and outward are mirrors of one another. What happens in the world is not a distant force acting upon you. It is a reflection, a stage where your inner rationality can act. Take the practice of amor fati, or love of faith. This is more than just resignation. It is an active embrace of whatever life brings. A storm, a loss, or a political setback is not a disruption to be avoided. Instead, the Stoic internalized the event as a lesson, using it to cultivate virtue and resilience. The outward challenge becomes an inward opportunity. This perspective echoes Heraclitus' idea of impermanence. Everything flows. Nothing in life is fixed, not even the self. Identity for the Stoic is not a rigid, isolated core. Instead, it is participatory in logos, shaped and informed by the ongoing flow of events in the cosmos. You do not merely exist. You exist in relation to the universe itself. Here, the Stoics avoid the dualism so common in later thought. There is no separate inner realm and outer realm. Eudaimonia, the flourishing life, is not achieved by retreating inward or controlling the external world. It arises naturally when the self accepts and aligns with what is. When inward wholeness emerges from the dynamic interplay with outward reality. In modern terms, we might say the Stoics already intuited a kind of inward-outward integration, where the self and the world co-emerge. Your thoughts, your virtues, your actions, these are inseparable from the cosmos' unfolding order. To live well is not to dominate the world, but to participate harmoniously in its rational flow. And so, in Stoicism, life itself becomes a practice of entanglement, an elegant dance between inward wholeness and outward participation, where the boundary between self and world blurs, and the in and the out exists in continuous dialogue. Now, let's move forward in time to the 17th century when Europe was in the midst of scientific revolution and intellectual upheaval. René Descartes, a French philosopher and mathematician, sought certainty in a world increasingly dominated by doubt and skepticism. In his meditations, Descartes famously declares, "Cogito ergo sum," I think, therefore I am. This is a radical moment in the history of thought. Instead of relying on the shifting appearances of the world, Descartes turns inward. The very act of thinking becomes the indubitable foundation of reality. Your inward mind, the thinking self, is certain. Everything external can be doubted. To achieve this certainty, Descartes employs methodical skepticism. He strips away all beliefs that could be questioned, the senses, the body, even the heavens themselves. What remains is the mind that thinks, the res cogitans, the thinking thing. Meanwhile, the world of extended objects, the res extensa, remains outside, measurable and distinct. This is the birth of modern duality, inward mind versus outward matter, subject versus object, inner certainty versus outer uncertainty. God is the guarantor, bridging mind and matter and ensuring that the external world is not entirely illusory. A classic example of this duality is Descartes' wax argument. Imagine a piece of wax, solid, with a particular smell and texture. Putting in near a flame, and it melts. Its color, its shape, and smell change completely. Yes, despite all these changes, we still recognize it as wax. How? Not by the senses, but by the intellect. Our inward conception remains constant even as outward properties fluctuate. This shows the primacy of inward understanding of outward appearances. The mind grasps essence. The senses grasp change. In short, Descartes shifts the axis of certainty inward, separating it from the mutable outer world. Where Stoicism saw a harmonious integration of inward virtue and outward events, Cartesian thought inaugurates a dual structure, the mind as certain, the world as distinct and measurable, and knowledge as the bridge between them. This division lays the foundation for modern philosophy and science, but it also creates a tension, a separation that later thinkers, including those in inner ontology, will seek we seek to reconcile. Following Descartes' cogito, we encounter decisive philosophical shift, the radical separation of inward and outward. In Cartesian philosophy, the certainty of the inward mind, your thinking self, is absolute. It is fixed, indubitable, and exists independently of the fluctuating external world. This inward certainty enables the development of mechanistic science, where the outward world can be measured, predicted, and manipulated. This universe becomes a grand machine, governed by laws separate from the certainty of consciousness. However, this comes at a cost. By detaching the mind from the world, Descartes introduced the famous mind-body problem. How can an immaterial thinking substance, the less cogitans, influence the material less existential? How can two fundamentally distinct realms interact? This question, which philosophers have wrestled with for centuries, is the hidden tension behind modernity's subject-object split. Identity in this framework is inwardly fixed. Your essence is defined by thought alone, not by circumstances, social relations, or the flux of the external world. Contrast this with the Stoics, where identity and virtue emerge from participation in the unfolding cosmic order. Stoicism dissolves the boundary between inward and outward. Cartesian philosophy elects it. To illustrate, consider a simple daily example. Suppose you decide to learn a new skill, like playing the piano. For the Stoic, mastery depends on harmonizing your inner discipline with the external environment. The practice space, the instrument, the guidance of a teacher. You yourself develop through engagement with the world. For the Cartesian, your inner determination exists first, fully intact, while the external world is a separate domain to which you apply your reasoning. Success or failure is not a measure of inner certainty, but of manipulation and adjustment of the external. This shift underlies much of modern thought. Science, rational planning, and technological progress all rely on a clear subject-object distinction. Yet, it also leaves a philosophical gap. If mind and matter are separate, how do they truly interact? The Cartesian inward-outward division is a landmark achievement, and simultaneously a deep philosophical puzzle, a tension that thinkers like Leibniz, Spinoza, and even inner ontology later grapple with from different angles. In short, Descartes' revolution created the space for modernity but introduced a structural split, inward certainty versus outward contingency. And it is precisely this split, the voice of inner duality, that later frameworks, including IO, aim to reconcile into a dynamic relational understanding of existence. Now, let's step back and look at the larger historical trajectory that leads from Stoic harmony to Cartesian separation, what we can call the rise of inner duality. In Stoicism, the inward and downward were inseparable. The logos infused the cosmos, and humanism was a thread woven into that grand design. Inward virtue was not isolated. It participated in the outward flow of events, allowing the Stoic to live in alignment with nature and cultivate holistic ethics. In practical terms, a Stoic facing hardship, say political upheaval or personal loss, would see that challenge not as a separate external imposition, but as an occasion for inner growth. Inward disposition and outward circumstance were co-emergent. Then comes Descartes, and the landscape changed dramatically. The cogito asserts the mind's autonomy. Inward thinking becomes the foundation of certainty, independent of the external world. The emphasis shifts from participating in cosmic order to owning subjective certainty. where the Stoic integrated the Cartesian divides, inward mind versus outward matter, subject versus object. The external world becomes something to be observed, measured, and acted over, rather than an ongoing co-participant in ethical life. This shift mirrors broader cultural transformations. Ancient societies emphasized harmony, communal order, and integration with the cosmos. Modernity, by contrast, elevates individualism, rational autonomy, and subjectivity. Philosophy reflects this change, from immanence to transcendence, from participation to observation. We can trace the logical progression. Stoicism's unified field of inward and outward gradually evolves into Cartesian polarization. This sets the stage for later dualistic crises in philosophy, such as Kant's distinction between noumena and phenomena, where the thing in itself is forever inaccessible to the mind, further entrenching the divide. In short, the rise of inner duality is not just a philosophical abstraction, it is a historical process. From the integrated participatory cosmos of the Stoics to the bifurcated, self-contained mind of Descartes, the philosophical world begins to see the inward and outward as separate realms. And it is precisely this duality, this structural division, that inner ontology seeks to reconsider and synthesize, showing how integration and division are both emergent features of reality, rather than fixed categories. As we trace the rise of inner duality, we encounter key philosophical tensions that emerge from the very approaches Stoicism and Cartesian sought to take toward uncertainty. Stoicism, with its harmonious integration of inward virtue and outward events, carries a subtle risk, fatalism. If the cosmos is perfectly ordered and the logos dictates the flow of events, then outward circumstances could appear to dominate the individual. For example, a Stoic may accept a personal loss or misfortune as part of the natural world. But if misinterpreted, this could slide into a kind of passive resignation, where the outward flow seems to dictate life entirely, leaving the inner self reactivate rather than generative. Descartes, on the other hand, pushes certainty inward. The cogito establishes inward independence, a mind certain of itself amid the uncertainty of the external world. But this inward isolation brings another risk, solipsism. By prioritizing the thinking self over the outer world, the Cartesian subject may lose touch with the richness, contingency, and relationality of lived experience. Reality is now mediated by mind alone, and the external world can seem distant or secondary. Both philosophies, however, share a core quest, the search for certainty. For the Stoic, certainty is found in alignment, living in harmony with the rational order of the universe. For the Cartesian, certainty is found in doubt, stripping away all that is questionable to arrive at the indubitable self. It is in these differing quests that duality arises, inward and outward, subject and object, mind and world. The separation becomes structural, not just conceptual. This tension echoes throughout Western thought. The rift between subject and object, between knowing and existing, becomes a defining feature of modern philosophy. In modern terms, we might see this as the structural origin of the inner duality. The very attempt to secure certainty, whether through cosmic alignment or rigorous inward reflection, produces a split. And it is precisely this split, Stoic fatalism versus the Cartesian solipsism, that IO seeks to reconcile, showing that inward and outward are not fixed or opposed, but dynamically entangled in the ongoing emergence of reality. Having traced the historical arc work from Stoic integration to Cartesian duality, we arrive at a new philosophical horizon. The sublimation of these tensions through inner ontology. IO does not merely reconcile inward and outward. It returns to a previous state, to the inner indistinct, or IOIs. In this foundational layer, inward and outward are not separate. They are indistinct, superposed potentials, much like a quantum state before measurement. Here, duality has not yet emerged. It is latent, waiting to crystallize through interaction. From this previous substrate, familiar patterns arise. A logos-like unity emerges as inward coherence in the entangled page of IOEs, echoing Stoic harmony. A cogito-like subjectivity appears as directional inward asymmetry, the mind asserting itself, but always within a relational field, echoing Cartesian certainty. Mathematically, we might represent this as a superposition, omega, where inward corresponds to the real, cohesive component, and outward corresponds to the imaginary, differentiative component, reminiscent of Euler's identity. When IOEs break symmetry, they generate rhythms of emergence, inward as wholeness, reflecting participation in the universal order, outward as becoming, expressing differentiation, action, and extension into the world. To make this concrete, consider the self. In IO, the self is not a static entity, but an emergent pattern arising from relational entanglement. Stoic virtue manifests as inward resonance, a stable coherence aligning with the cosmos. Cartesian certainty manifests as a stabilized IO ratio amid the flux of experience, asserting subjectivity, but in a structured relational context. In other words, IO allows us to see inward wholeness and outward becoming not as opposite, but as co-emergent aspects of the same underlying reality. It is a framework where duality is resolved through generative entanglement, and where the mind and world, virtue and action, coherence and extension dance together in a dynamic emergent rhythm. Having explored how IO generates the emergent rhythms of inward wholeness and outward becoming, we now see how it fully integrates the Stoic and Cartesian insights. In IO, Stoic immanence is realized as global coherence across IO fields. Think of it as the universe itself resonating through a vast network of entanglements. Cosmic logos emerging naturally from the interactions of IOIs. Virtue, ethics, and harmony arise not from imposed rules, but from this entangled relational structure. At the same time, Cartesian inwardness appears as localized inward modes, specific self-referential pages within the broader IOE field. This is the cogito, a stable, inwardly directed certainty, but always anchored within a relational substrate. The inward self is no longer isolated. It exists as a dynamic participant in the entangled web of reality. By situating both perspectives within IO, duality is transformed. Inward and outward are no longer opposed. They are complementary aspects of the same reality. The unity of logos emerges through integration, the global harmony of entangled relations. The separation of cogito emerges as an adaptive localized boundary, a directional page that maintains its identity without severing connection. This framework also resolves the classic critiques. Stoic fatalism is avoided because outward events are not deterministic change, but fields of agency arising from relational interactions. Cartesian isolation is avoided because the mind is never truly separated. It is always embedded in the network of IOEs, participating in the generation of both inward coherence and outward differentiation. In practical terms, imagine a person navigating a complex social environment. Their inner virtue, Stoic resonance aligns with shared norms, ethics, and collective flows, generating coherence. Their self-directed decisions, Cartesian inward page, assert personal judgment and agency. Yet these two aspects do not clash. Through I/O, integration and differentiation coexist, producing a self that is both coherent and responsive, unified and dynamic. In short, I/O provides a generative synthesis. The inward mind and outward world are no longer in tension, but dynamically entangled. The logos and the cogito are not rival forces. They are two complementary phases of reality, harmonized through the underlying structure of inner ontology. Having established how I/O synthesizes Stoic and Cartesian insights, we can now explore its relevance for contemporary science, consciousness studies, and ethics. In quantum physics, I/O offers a fresh range. The non-local connections seen in quantum entanglement resemble Stoic interconnectedness. Every part of the system participates in global coherence, much like logos guiding the cosmos. Meanwhile, observer effects, how measurement influences outcomes, echo Cartesian subjectivity. The inward mind modulates reality, shaping what is observed. Put simply, the universe is not merely external or passive. It is actively entangled with observation, with the inward and outward continuously influencing each other. When it comes to consciousness, I/O provides an intriguing perspective on qualia, the felt qualities of experience. These can be understood as shifts in the inward-outward balance of IOIs. Stoic eudaimonia, the harmonious flourishing of the self, corresponds to balanced inward-outward coherence, a smooth, resonant alignment of experience. Cartesian self-reflection, the inward assertion of subjectivity manifests as localized inward modulation within that field, moments of focus, deliberation, or self-awareness. Together, these show how subjective experience can be both embedded in the relation whole and distinctly self-directed. In ethics, I/O guides a sublimated approach to virtue. Stoic alignment and Cartesian autonomy are no longer opposed. They coexist in a relational structure. Your actions are informed by participation in larger social and cosmic networks. Stoic insight. At the same time, your personal agency and judgment, Cartesian insight, shape how you navigate these networks. The result is an ethics of dynamic relational coherence. Virtue emerges not from rigid rules or isolated rationality, but from harmonizing inward guidance with outward engagement. In essence, I/O shows that contemporary challenges, whether in physics, consciousness, or ethics, can be approached through a lens where inward and outward, subject and world, coherence and differentiation are not opposed, but mutually generative. It is a framework where classical dualities dissolve into dynamic emergent interplay, offering both explanatory power and practical insight for our complex interconnected world. As we bring this journey to a close, we can see a clear philosophical trajectory. From the Stoic logos to the Cartesian cogito, Western thought traces the rise of inner duality. The Stoics envisioned a unified, immanent cosmos where inward virtue and outward events harmonized seamlessly. The world was a living order, and humans participated actively in it. Descartes, in contrast, inaugurated modern subjectivity, emphasizing the certainty of inward thought above all else. Inward mind and outward matter become structurally distinct, giving rise to the subject-object divide that defines much of modern philosophy and science. I/O offers a generative resolution. By returning to the pre-dual layer of IOIs, it reclaims the indistinct potentials from which duality itself emerges. From this foundation, Logos emerges as inward wholeness, echoing the Stoic vision of harmony. Cogito manifests as directional self, asserting identity and agency, but only as in relational context. This rhythmic ontology synthesizes ancient wisdom with modern scientific insight. It provides a unified framework where the mind, the cosmos, and the experience are intertwined, dynamic, and mutually generative. For example, in everyday life, ethical decisions are no longer framed as choosing between rigid duty or isolated self-interest. Instead, virtue arises through relational coherence, aligning personal agency with broader networks of interaction, an ethical expression of IO in action. Looking forward, IO opens exciting avenues for research, formalizing ethical balance, quantifying how inward and outward dynamics produce harmonized moral outcomes, testing in quantum cognition, exploring how relational and directional aspects of consciousness emerge from underlying IO patterns. In essence, IO offers a way to bridge past and future, philosophy and science, self and cosmos, giving us not just a theory, but a practical generative lens for understanding emergence in all its forms.